Everything that you experience serves your spiritual development. Intuition to the old consciousness was limited to hunches. I have a hunch I should check the tires before we go on this road trip. Or I have a hunch I should go back and check the house to make sure I locked it. For the new consciousness, intuition is an integral part of life. That's because awareness of non-physical reality is an integral part of life. And we know about non-physical reality because we know and we sense that we are more than minds and bodies. The most important thing about preparing to use your intuition is to have an openness to the universe, an understanding that your life has a purpose, it has a meaning, and that is to grow spiritually. You're learning how to love. No matter what you're experiencing in the earth school, whether it's painful or not, it has a purpose. And opening yourself to that will help you open to intuition. Welcome back. This podcast is about the new consciousness. The biggest difference between the new consciousness and the old consciousness is that the new consciousness is no longer limited to the perceptions of the five senses. And that is a big difference. In other words, we are aware of more than we were when our species was limited to the old consciousness. For those of you who are millennials or Gen Z, what you're experiencing now is not the new consciousness to you, it's just consciousness, because you don't have anything to compare it with. To someone who's older than you do have something to compare it with, and the comparison is dramatic. But even if you're a millennial or Gen Z, you can see for yourself that our world is not working right. In fact, that it's crumbling. It's dysfunctional. Now, back to intuition. Intuition to the old consciousness was limited to hunches. I have a hunch I should check the tires before we go on this road trip. Or I have a hunch I should go back and check the house to make sure I locked it. For the new consciousness, intuition is an integral part of life. That's because awareness of non-physical reality is an integral part of life. And we know about non-physical reality because we know and we sense that we are more than minds and bodies. We have an aspect of ourselves that's much more than that, and that is correct. We're calling that the soul. That's the part of you that existed before you were born and that will exist after you die. Part of non-physical reality, well, I'm talking as though this is a part and that's a part. There aren't any parts. We're talking about awareness now. And our awareness has expanded to what I'm calling non-physical reality. A larger view of ourselves and the universe than we had before. And part of that larger view is not only what I've just described, your hunches about yourself, your sense about yourself, your sense that you know things about other people that the five senses couldn't provide for you, your sense that perhaps the world is more than random, it's meaningful, it's symbolic, and you can learn about yourself from it. In addition to that, we have access to non-physical guidance. And by that, I'm talking about non-physical teachers. If I were writing, and I do a lot of writing, I would make the word teacher with a capital T, because this is not like your third grade teacher or your history teacher in high school. This is something else. It's more than human. It is an impersonal energy dynamic. And that impersonal energy dynamic is able to provide us with wisdom and compassion that is beyond what we can provide to one another. That's what I mean by non-physical guidance and a non-physical teacher. Now, everyone has a non-physical teacher, even five-sensory humans. But because of the limitations of their awareness, they're not able to use that guidance in the way that we are. We can actually communicate, not necessarily with words, that's one way, but with a sense of meaning, of a sense of let's try this, or why don't I try that? It's priceless to be in communication with a non-physical teacher. A non-physical teacher will never tell you what to do. There was someone who was in prison for murdering someone, and another prisoner murdered this prisoner. And when they asked him, why did you murder your fellow inmate? He said, God told me to. That is not what divinity or a non-physical teacher would ever do. Non-physical teachers will not tell you what to do, but they will provide you with insight or expanded awareness or understanding so that you can use the experiences of your life more compassionately and more wisely, which means move beyond the control of fear, like anger and rage and despondency, and into love, which means gratitude, appreciation, caring, and awe of the universe. When we do that, we talk about intuition. Now, it's not your intuition. Sometimes people say, my intuition told me this, or my intuition told me that. Let's just say intuition. But when you access intuition, there's ways to do that. I told you one of them on our last podcast. If you want to access intuition, and here's a foolproof, fail-safe, that's a better way to say it, fail-safe way to access intuition. Before you speak or you act, ask yourself, what is my intention? And you will not be alone in the answer. Your intention will either be love or fear, because that's the basic fundamental duality in the Earth School. And you're always making that choice, that decision. A non-physical teacher allows you to access information beyond your own energy system. Now, by that I mean this. You have a higher self, not only your incarnation, but you have what we can call a higher self. Your higher self is communication between you and your soul. So when you're interacting with your soul, when you're asking your soul, what is my intuition? You're drawing upon your own internal experiences, so to speak. This is an in-house, put it that way, an in-house communication. You're drawing upon your memory, your imagination, your life experiences, and your higher self. Let's call this an intuitive process. Your intuition is like a radio receiver, and it can receive signals from different stations. Your own soul is one of them. It can also receive information from souls in advance of your own, and it can receive information from non-physical teachers. That is not information that's coming from your internal energy system. It's coming from outside of that. So let's call that intuitive channeling. You might say that intuitive processing is cooking at home, and intuitive channeling is ordering out. You can do both. In order to experiment with intuition, there's some basic things you can do. Number one, through the day and especially at night, cleanse yourself of your painful emotions. In other words, don't go to bed angry. Don't go to bed judgmental or holding a grudge. Create authentic power, as we've been discussing in other podcasts, and we will discuss many more times in this one. That means look at what you're feeling in terms of physical sensations in your body, for example, in your throat, your chest, and your solar plexus. And if they are painful physical sensations like aching, throbbing, burning, stabbing, stinging, then you know that you're in fear. Don't go to bed that way if you can help it. Do your best to use your intention, your volition, your willpower, your free will, to move your attention away from the frightened part of your personality that is causing physical, painful sensations and judgmental, critical thoughts, and put it into a loving part of your personality, a time when you were loved or loving and you knew it, and then choose to act or speak from that part of your personality while you're experiencing the frightened part of your personality. That's creating authentic power. That's what your non-physical guides and teachers will always help you to do. How you experience something depends upon how you hold it. And your non-physical teachers will help you hold it in different ways, in loving ways, rather than in ways that come from fear. Let me give you an example. Take any situation in the Earth School that is clearly impacting your emotions, say the death of a child, the dissolution of a relationship, the failure of a business. Frightened parts of your personality will all look at that as a disaster or a catastrophe or the worst of all possible futures coming into being in your life. And it's painful. But there are other parts of your personality, loving parts of your personality, that will look at that as an opportunity to grow spiritually, an opportunity to create authentic power in just the way that I've described. So it's the same situation in the Earth School, but your experience of it is entirely different when you see it through the lens of fear than it is when you see it through the lens, so to speak, of love. Your non-physical teachers will always assist you in making that shift of perception and that shift of understanding. That doesn't mean that they will anesthetize you or that your painful physical sensations will disappear as you interact with a non-physical teacher, but you will know the reasons for them and therefore be able to explore them openly, deeply, knowing that it's a healthy thing to do, never to suppress, repress, deny an emotion, but to become as familiar with it as you can, intimately familiar. That's what emotional awareness is. And that's what your non-physical teachers will help you to do. You can also have a clean diet. Everybody who's got a clean diet knows what that means. It means organic if you can, fresh, without chemicals. The most important thing about preparing to use your intuition is to have an openness to the universe, an understanding, or at least considering quite seriously, quite deeply, that your life has a purpose, it has a meaning, and that is to grow spiritually. You're learning how to love. No matter what you're experiencing in the Earth School, whether it's painful or not, and every frightened part of your personality is painful to experience, it has a purpose. And opening yourself to that will help you open to intuition. Intuition is actively using your new consciousness to understand what is happening in your life. Not in the intellectual sense of, well, this happened to me when I was a child and my father shouted at me, or my mother was an alcoholic and that's why I am the am. Not that kind of understanding at all. But a broader look at yourself with compassion and with a friend who will always be with you and will always care about your spiritual growth. Your non-physical teacher will not answer questions like, how can I make more money? How can I get this partner? How can I get the new car? Because they're not interested in those things. They're interested only in your spiritual growth. So you can ask a question to a non-physical teacher, how can I become a very wealthy person? And they will answer that in a way that will be helpful to your spiritual growth, not to your bank account. You are experiencing the wisdom, the compassion, the love of the universe. You are that yourself. And non-physical teachers and all that they do and all that they say to you will assist you in looking from that perspective. And in fact, they'll be able to tell you things that your intellect could never tell you. Your intellect cannot reach into an understanding of non-physical reality. It was designed to work with your five senses, to analyze data from them, and to suggest to its personality the best ways to pursue external power, manipulation, and control. But it cannot venture, it cannot go into non-physical reality. Your intellect has no ability to grasp, accept, or even use non-physical reality. It has no use for it and no interest in it. That's where your new consciousness comes, because there you will find answers that you never would have guessed. I said that the universe is love. A non-physical teacher will help you to see that you are that love. As you're searching for love in the Earth School, you are looking for yourself. And you're not going to find it outside yourself, because you are it. So why are you not experiencing love all the time? Why are you not experiencing joy? This is where the Earth School comes into the picture. The Earth School allows you a domain of experience in which contrasts, plural, exist. The difference between big and little, male, female, good, bad, and the fundamental contrast, the fundamental duality of love and fear. Non-physical reality does not have the characteristics of the Earth School. It does not have time and space and matter and duality and fear. But it serves a fundamental purpose for the souls that choose to incarnate into it, and that is to use choice consciously and wisely. To do what? To move yourself toward love, and that is the creation of authentic power. Non-physical reality has none of these things that the Earth School has. And so from that perspective, how could you know what unending joy is if you have nothing to compare it with? How do you know what unending wisdom and compassion are if you have nothing to compare it with? In non-physical reality, that comparison is not there, but the actual experience of unending joy and unending compassion is there. Where is there? You. You are that. And we are learning all of these things in the Earth School, each in our own unique, exquisite ways, and each in our own time, and each in our own place. Non-physical teachers will always assist you in this. They will always assist you in using your experiences to grow spiritually, because that's what you've been given them for. That openness to the universe that I was talking about is a knowledge, a trust, a knowing that everything that you experience serves your spiritual development. When you're interacting with other people, each of those other people is experiencing the same thing. They are experiencing the perfect situation for them to grow, given the wisdom of the choices that they have made. And all of this we're calling intuition, your window into it. But there's no window, because that makes it sound like you're inside and it's outside, or you're outside and it's inside. That distinction is not there in the new consciousness between inside and outside. It's a joy to be able to share these with you, and I encourage you to experiment with them. So after this podcast, write down the next time you have a hunch, and the next time you are curious or you're not certain whether you're in love or in fear, ask yourself, what is my intention? And then see what answer it is you get, and then test it out. In the old consciousness, we would call seeing something that comes from outside the earth school synchronicity. That is what the new consciousness gives you, moment by moment by moment. It's a joy to be with you again. I'm looking forward to being with you next time. And don't forget, pay attention to your hunches, write them down, and don't forget to ask yourself, what is my intention? Is it love or is it fear? The next time you're not certain, and there may be many times. Bye for now.